A lot of people think we have elected you to the office, and if you are not doing something, it means you are stealing money. Great. Many of the politicians we elect are thieves. But are we not accomplices? Because if a politician comes to you and says, hey, let me give you the honest assessment of the whole situation. This is the situation we are in, and this is the truth. Are you going to elect him? Every one of us always elect people who have sweet mouth. Why do we then get angry when a politician who has promised us heaven and all the beautiful things doesn't deliver? Because we voted for him. We believe in lies. We don't believe in anybody who tells us the truth. Why are we in Africa always trying to compare ourselves with Europeans? Why are we always trying to run the European race? Why is it that we are only happy when we have all those big buildings in Africa, big roads, so that we can say like, hey, my country is advanced? Advanced by whose qualification? By whose definition? Buildings are not going to make us happy.
I'm a king.
Hello, welcome to the Africa Narrative Podcast. My name is Femi Shuewu. Today, I want to talk about one very important word and what it means and why we need to take a second look at how we think about that word. And that word is poor. What does being poor mean? Is Africa poor? Are Africans poor? That is what I want to discuss with you today. In the coming series, we're going to examine either solo or with other people a lot of misconceptions about Africa, about Africans. Who are we? What are we? Are we Africans or are we Africans wannabe? Those are the kind of topics and subjects we are going to discuss with you, brainstorm with you in this series ahead. So if you have not subscribed to the channel or to the podcast, this is the right time to do it. And we invite you to join the discussion.
We have equated having things with being, so that those who have things are considered more human beings. They are not arrested, they are not harassed because they have things. They have Lamborghinis, they have Porsche Cayennes, they have big houses. So every single person now wants to have things. And the best way to get things is either you get miracle money in church, you go to the occult, or you steal. Natif. So what we have done is created an industry of co-conspirators.
Are we poor in Africa? That is a discussion I've been having with a couple of people recently. My conclusion is there are hardly any poor person in Africa. Hear me out. Sometimes, and in fact, all of the time, we Africans are kind of victim of propaganda. We have been led to believe that we are poor. We have been told hundreds of years in the time of colonialism, in the time of when we thought we got independence, which we never got, we are poor. But the fact is, are we poor? How do you define poor? How do you define who is poor? For me, if you are able to eat 2 times or maybe 3 times a day, you have a place to sleep, you have a place to clean yourself, you are not poor. You are not poor. Every other thing outside that is luxury. So we have to ask ourselves, are we poor or are we devoid of luxury. We are equating having things, like Brian Kagoro said, to being either poor or being rich. And I'll ask you this question. Would you rather have money in your pocket, have a big house, have what we call good roads, good infrastructures, and be terribly, terribly, terribly sad, terribly miserable, depressed? Or would you rather have food in your stomach, go out, ask after your friends, and be able to do what most Africans do, have fun on the street, and enjoy, even if you don't have a lot of money in your pocket? Which one would you prefer? Would you prefer to have money and be miserable, or to have no money and be happy? I can hear some of you thinking like, yeah, but I need some money to be able to be happy and not be miserable and all of that. That is what we have been told. That is why America, Europe, they have a lot of all of those things that we Africans are always striving for. Because you have to remember, for somebody to be rich, somebody has to be poor. If somebody keeps telling you you are poor and you see all the shiny things they are wearing or they are doing, you want to be like them. But there is a payoff there. At this point, I would like to tell you that I've lived half of my life in Europe and the other half in Africa. The perception from Africa is that Europe is rich, they have everything, so all of us are running to come here. That is a perception. And from Europe, the perception is Africa is poor, and they keep showing us that, they keep telling us that you know, this is where you have to be, but this is where you are. And what are we doing? We are trying to run a race which rules we don't understand. Because while we are running, we are filling the pockets of those in Europe, whether we know it or not. For the European to feel good about himself, he has to make other people, especially Africans, feel bad about themselves. And if you feel bad about yourself, you want to do things to be good. We are still running after the white acceptance. White master who says, hey boy, you've done good today. We might deny it. We might say, no, this guy is talking nonsense. Maybe I'm talking nonsense. But the purpose of this podcast is to start a discussion. Sometimes when I'm talking to my fellow Africans and I say to them, there are very, very extremely poor people in Europe, they say to me, no, you are telling lies. But there are people in Europe who are much poorer than the poorest in Africa. In the street where I live, in Europe, there is this box there they put there for people who have nothing to eat. So in the middle of the night, people who are hungry will go into the box to go and pick food that, you know, people like us have put there for them. That's Europe also. But to come back to what I was trying to say, when the rich person, says, you are poor and look at me, I have all these beautiful clothes, I have this beautiful house, beautiful cars, look at my house, it's really very beautiful, and you are living the way you are living, what they are saying to you actually is, buy from me. We have been conditioned to believe whatever we ourselves produce is not good enough. It has to be made in Europe. if it is made in Migori or made in Mwanza or made in somewhere in Zimbabwe, we look down on it. So we who are not rich, we produce things, we don't respect the things we produce. We live in places we don't respect. We want to buy things that have the etiquette made in Europe. Who are these poor people of Africa enriching them if we are buying Europe? If we look up at Europe for their approval, like, hey, if I have made in Europe, then I'm good. If I'm wearing Gucci, then I'm good. If I'm wearing Versace, that's good. Who is buying Uhuru? Who is buying something made in, say, Senegal? Because if you buy it and you wear it, people are going to look at you. Your people are going to look at you like, damn. So we have that poor mentality. And when people say you are poor, you want to prove to them also like, hey, I'm wearing Gucci, so I'm not poor. You might not be poor in your pocket, but that is actually being poor in your mind. Because somehow you don't like yourself. Somehow you don't like who you are. Somehow you don't like things around you. If it is black, it's bad. If it is white, it's great. So we complain every day about our government, about our infrastructures, and about everything. But we look at Europe and say, hey, you guys are doing good. Are they? And are things as bad as we think they are? And if things are bad as we think they are, whose fault is it? Just recently, the president of Kenya had to withdraw a finance bill that he was going to sign into law, passed by parliament. The ironic thing about that is it was one of the very few moments that the president of Kenya, William Ruto, actually told the truth to the people of his country about why he needed to raise taxes. But having told the truth, people did not believe him, went on the street, destroyed parliament, destroyed lives, destroyed property, destroyed things. So if we don't pay taxes, how do we expect to have the infrastructures that we are so much clamoring for, that we have more money in our pocket, that we can go to school, because schools you have to build. All of these things don't come for free. But we have been also conditioned by our own and the previous governments to believe that everything is free. Everything, we can just get everything for free. I remember I was in Zimbabwe a couple of years ago, and I was talking with the driver who was taking me around, and I asked him, what is the tax rate in this country? How much taxes do you pay? And he said, tax, why do I have to pay tax? This was a guy who had been complaining about infrastructure, about being poor, about lack of facilities and everything. But when you talk about paying your own dues, we believe in Africa, everything has to be free. Government has to provide things for us, and it's just for free, and we don't have to do anything about it. It doesn't work that way. And because our politicians have always been lying to us, we have made ourselves to believe, one, that the politician can solve all the problems, meaning the government can solve all the problems, and two, that everything is going to be free. We can just get things free of charge. So if you want to go and make dinner for yourself, you go to the market, you pay for it. You don't go to the market and just pick anything there. You pay for it. You say, this is what I want. And when you are paying for it, you also then are able to demand quality. Say, no, I don't want this. I don't want this because I paid for it. And then you go home, you make yourself a nice, delicious dinner. But we expect the roads that we're going to take from our house to the market to just magically appear there. Some Chinese and previously the Americans and the Europeans were there constructing the roads for free. And government is not a business enterprise. So where is that money to build the road going to come from? Where is the money that's going to build schools going to come from? If we as citizens are not contributing. And it is when we contribute, when we actually pay our own share of the taxes, that we can hold our governments, hold them to task. We can question them. We can say, hey, I'm paying all of this money. Why is it that I'm getting nothing in return? But no, we expect things just to appear magically. And what we don't know is that we are being recolonized. And that has to do with our leaders, our politicians who are always lying to us because we don't want to be told the truth anyway. If somebody wakes up, tells us the truth and says, guys, we're going to do this, we're going to build a high-speed train from Lagos to Kano, we're just going to think it's going to magically arrive there. But if you see the Chinese or the Europeans or the Americans or Asians or Turkish people or even people from Dubai now on the road, you know, that's costing money. And that money, government has to go abroad to go and borrow at a very high interest rate just to satisfy you so that you can see like, hey, my country looks like Britain, my country looks like America. Do you need all of that? If your answer is yes, do you think you should contribute to some of that? A lot of people think we have elected you to the office, and if you are not doing something, it means you are stealing money. Great. Many of the politicians we elect are thieves. But are we not accomplices? Because if a politician comes to you and says, hey, let me give you the honest assessment of the whole situation. This is the situation we are in, and this is the truth. Are you going to elect him? Every one of us always elect people who have sweet mouth. And we, you know, when we were young and growing up, I would say, hey, if a guy is sweet-mouthing you, then he has something, he wants something from you, and is most of the time just a sweet talker, smooth operator, and at the end of the day, you're going to end up being disappointed. Why do we then get angry when a politician who has promised us heaven and all the beautiful things doesn't deliver? Because we voted for him. We believe in lies. We don't believe in anybody who tells us the truth. As the case I was just using with William Ruto, because he came to office based on a lot of what politicians do, telling lies. He could wrap his lies in a very beautiful package and people will say, hey, that's a hustler like myself. That guy has been in politics for 20 odd years. It's not like you and me. But even you and me, we are lying to each other. You can never cheat a honest person. So what I'm saying is, are we honest with ourselves? Because if we are honest, we will know we need to start paying our part in order to get all those things that we think we need. Which, in my estimation, we also don't need. I think if you have food, if you have a place to sleep and you have a place to clean yourself, you are not poor. If you can get from A to B, whichever way necessary, whichever how much time it takes, you are not poor. If I want to travel by car from, say, London to Paris, maybe it takes me 5 or 6 hours. If I want to do a travel from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, maybe it takes me 8 hours on the road. So what? I get to my destination. I am running my own race. Why are we in Africa always trying to compare ourselves with Europeans? Why are we always trying to run the European race? Why is it that we are only happy when we have all those big buildings in Africa, big roads, so that we can say like, hey, my country is advanced? Advanced by whose qualification? By whose definition? Buildings are not going to make us happy. Some of those people, especially in Nairobi, who are protesting, if you've been to Nairobi, you see beautiful buildings there. But are those beautiful buildings, skyscrapers, beautiful hotels, are they feeding people? No. Because we are setting our priorities wrong. We are turning Africa into Europe, and we are not doing it fast enough. That's why we are frustrated. We want to be like Europe. Like Europe, everybody's happy. Like in Europe, everybody is satisfied. Like in Europe, people are not just miserable. And that is the point I'm trying to make. Being rich or poor is not defined and should never be defined by how much money you have in your pocket. I've seen Africans in Europe commit suicide because they got here thinking everything is going to be shining. Nothing shines. Everything that looks like it's shining here is just fake. It's just like fake gold. Africa and Africans, you are richer than you think. If you have not eaten today, and you are going to bed without food, then you are poor. But if you are watching this or hearing this, you're not poor because you have a lot of luxuries. You can afford to buy airtime, you can afford to watch this, you need electricity, you need a mobile phone, you have gone to school, you understand what I'm talking about, and you still call yourself poor because you are not living a life that has been portrayed and projected to us like it's a good life, like the Americans or the Europeans live. Sometimes I wish we could just trade places, that a European will come and live in Africa and an African will live in Europe, and let's see what happens. Whether you're not going to be like, I'm going to kill myself. Because of course, when you walk here, and that's a topic we will discuss in the upcoming, in this upcoming series. When you walk here, of course you get money. But that money is not going to talk back to you. You are living alone in your house. Where I live, in Europe, I've been living in the place I'm living for 22 years in that house. I have a neighbor left, I have a neighbor right. I don't know their names. I don't know if they know my names. I'm sure they don't know my names at all. We don't see each other, we don't know each other, nothing. And that's rich. That's the kind of life we are aiming for in Africa, where you don't know your next door neighbor, where you see your next door neighbor and you just pretend like you don't know each other, where you don't talk with each other, where people die for 5 years, they are dead in their own houses and nobody knows. Because even their relatives, they don't talk with each other. And then you are saying to me you are poor. You have a wife, you have children, you're sending even your children to school somehow, being poor. You have a social life. In the weekend, you go to your parties, and you still say you are poor. My friends, we are not poor in Africa. What we are a victim of propaganda. People have told us that we are poor, and we have come to believe that we are poor.
We have equated having things with being, so that those who have things are considered more human beings. They are not arrested, they are not harassed because they have things. They have Lamborghinis, they have Porsche Cayennes, they have big houses. So every single person now wants to have things. And the best way to get things is either you get miracle money in church, you go to the occult, or you steal. Natif.
We are just feeling that we are poor because maybe we've not acquired enough things. Are you? You are alive. You are healthy. And even if you are not healthy, there are in every African country, there is always a traditional healer. But no, we will have to find money to go to the Western trained doctor and not believe in our own traditional herbs. Everything has to be Europe. I think it was Albert Einstein who once said, like, if you tell a donkey his whole life that he's a horse, it's going to be a very miserable horse. Because we have been told our whole life that we are poor because people are rating us in terms of happiness, in terms of blah, 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 with Europe. My people, Europe is not a happy place. It's not a happy place. People are happy, pretend happy when the sun is shining in the summer, and the rest of the year they are miserable. They don't have friends. People don't talk to each other. And when they meet you, they are awkward in social communications. So what makes you have a good life? I was recently reading about how many universities Nigeria has. So Nigeria, at the moment, and I think maybe it has changed since I read it, has about 272 universities. So by my own estimation, that means if all of those universities are churning out students, let's say on the average, they have like 30,000 students, meaning every year they are churning out close to, if you add all of those figures together, they are churning out close to 1 million or more than 1 million university graduates every year. First of all, these people believe they are poor, but they are university graduates now. You don't go to the university if you are poor, if you don't have money. But 1 million people are coming out of the university alone. I'm not even counting all the other tertiary institutions, higher institutions. At the university, at least 1 million people, students are coming out every year. Does the government have 1 million jobs ready for them? And what jobs do these people want that they cannot create themselves? Why is it the job of the government to create employment opportunities for you? The job of the government is to create the right atmosphere. So let the private sector do something. Let you yourself, because we as Africans were never given the chance, and given the chance to believe in ourselves, we can create magic. We always create magic. So why are we waiting for somebody we elected, an elected thief, to create something for us? Why are we not creative? Why do we have to look at the government to be our savior? We go to the church, we go to the mosque, we put a lot of money there for somebody who is also telling us there is heaven somewhere and all of that, and you have to believe in all of this. Religion brought from Europe, the white man. What God were we worshiping before the white man came? Were we not worshiping God? Everything, we are still seeking the European approval. It should not be so. Let's walk our own walk at our own pace, at our own time of choosing, at our own period. We should not become in 50 years developed in our own eyes, and nobody can tell the difference between Amsterdam and Kampala. Because Africa is unique. We are losing our uniqueness because we are busy chasing the European dreams. Let's chase our own dreams. Let's create our own dreams. Instead of forcing our government to go to China, to go to Turkey, to go to America, to go and borrow money that we are not probably going to pay back, so that they can build some beautiful infrastructure for us that is not actually bringing us any kind of, it doesn't make any business sense because it's not going to be profitable. Anyway, instead of doing that, why don't we together say, let us put our hands together, the private industry, there are rich people there who can create things, that we keep on creating those things privately, wealth privately. Why can't we do that? Why do we think we have arrived when we have a train built by the Chinese that can go from Nairobi to Mombasa in 5 hours? Japan has a bullet train that will travel that distance in 30 minutes. Is that what we want to achieve? And okay, I get to Mombasa on time. What am I doing in Mombasa? Is it just to be able to say to my friends, our train goes now faster, without any other context? Because that is most of the time what we are doing. We just want to acquire materials. We just want to acquire things. We just want to be able to boast like, hey, mine is bigger than yours. And then in the evening, we don't have food on the table because we have put all of those things. Our politicians, aided and abetted by us, have been busy mortgaging our future because we want to see all the beautiful things. And if they're going to set up industry, they have to go and get loans. France, Britain, the Netherlands, all of those countries will go to the World Bank and get a loan for less than 1% interest rate. We, Africans, we go there and it's 16, 18, 20%. And they keep saying to us, the reason why we are not giving you a low rate is because you are poor. We don't know whether you're going to pay it back. So Europeans say we are poor. We have agreed with the Europeans that we are poor. Why can't we cut our coats according to our sizes? Why do we still need to be subsidizing Europe? We have all those natural resources that are needed in Europe. Even Climate, we have it now because we are talking about climate change, and Africa is still one place where it is less. So people are trading in emissions, and everybody's coming to Africa to buy air. And we don't still see that whatever money we get there, we can use to build industry, to reimburse, pay off all our debts, and then start cutting our coats according to our sizes. We don't need to borrow money. We don't need to run the European race. We can develop the way we want to develop at our own pace. It doesn't have to be utopia tomorrow. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel. We have more to come because we look at it from one angle, but maybe I've been talking nonsense the whole time. But I'm sure 100% of what I said cannot be stupid. And 100% of how you think can never be stupid. Maybe there are things here and there we can learn from each other. I will invite you to leave your comments below. If you have questions, ask them. Be polite, be nice. Let's really be Africans, because we are people who believe in humanity. And I can say that to you 100%. We are the race that respects other races. That's why some other races with their guns and nuclear weapons have taken advantage of us. So if you have not subscribed to this podcast or to this channel, please consider doing so. And if you want to help us further in our journey to educating ourselves, to discovering new perspectives, you can also just join the channel. Joining the channel means you are contributing a little resource financially so that we are able to buy some of our equipment, maybe travel to some of the places, talk to some of the leaders of Africa, some of the thought leaders, the PLOs, the Arikanas, the Kagoros, the Obis, all those people. Maybe we can seek their wisdom. You really need to start thinking as an African of whether you are really poor. For me, poor is not knowing the names of your neighbors. Poor is dying in your own house and nobody knows that you don't have any family. Nobody knows. It's one day when the postman thinks like, hey, I've been delivering posts in this house and something is wrong, and it looks inside the post box and it smells, some heavy smells comes, that it calls the police and say, hey, I think something funny is happening there. That the police will come and say, oh, this guy has been dead for a year or dead for 2 years. Is that what you want? Let's just try and change our perspective. Of course, it's human nature. We want to be happy. We want to be social. We want to have money in our pocket to be able to afford certain things. Yeah, great. Let's work for all of those things. Let's not be looking at a government because we are putting them under pressure and we force them to lie. It's like when lovers are saying to themselves, tell me the truth, I can handle it. How many lovers could handle any truth when they are told the truth? It's the same with us. How many of us are going to believe any politicians? How many politicians have we elected that say, guys, I'm not going to do much for you. I'm just going to create laws that will give you the chance to be the best person you can be, but I'm not going to lead you to the promised land, you have to go to the promised land yourself and seek the promised land yourself. How many of those people have we ever elected? We will elect people who are lying to us, just like lovers do. If a lover says, hey, I like you, but maybe I like that other one, it's going to be trouble because we cannot handle the truth, but people will cheat, which is exactly what we are also doing with our politicians. We will not believe the ones who are telling us the truth, but there are no politicians telling the truth anymore. It's a competition of lies. So whoever is able to tell the most lies in the most funny way and is very articulate, that is the one we are all going to vote for. And every single one of those politicians is a reflection of who we are. So, my friends, people listening to this, people watching this, before you say to me you are poor, be sure you have not eaten today. Be sure you don't have a place to sleep tonight. Be sure you don't have a place to clean yourself in the morning. Otherwise, once you have all of those things I've just mentioned, once you have that opportunity, you are not a poor person. And once you start changing that mentality of thinking to yourself you are poor because you could not afford what your friends have, one, a kind of peace will descend on you. And with peace comes innovation, because then your brain clears itself of all those nonsense, and then it becomes a place, a sanctuary for you to be creative. A friend of mine, actually it's a family of mine, and this is where I'm going to end today's podcast, thought going to Europe or America was the only way he could become somebody in life. So he did all he could after he graduated, everything he could, borrowed money, sold certain things, sold some of his properties, paid some middlemen to get some visa. And every time he traveled off, he got stopped at the airport, got deported. Because he was leaving his own country thinking he was poor. He wanted to go to the promised land. The promised land is in front of you there, if you only know how to see it. So this family of mine, I'm fasting forward 20 years later. You know, after he was deported a couple of times, he decided like, hey, maybe my future is not there. So what he did was to take Europe and America out of his head, out of his equation, and then the peace descended on him, and he could then see opportunities where he was. And today, he's a multimillionaire. And then the funny thing is, now he goes to Europe and America like 10 times a year, just visiting. Like, I'm not ever going to stay here. Why am I going to stay here? I just come here just to look around like, this is why I was almost killing myself, why I was being denigrated, why I was being subjected to all those nonsense, being deported. Now he goes get visa because, you know, all those European countries, American countries say, oh, you are a multimillionaire. We want you in our country. To become miserable in our country, to be here and just be at minus 20 degrees in the winter, shaking when we have abundance of sunlight in Africa. So when you take it off your head that you are poor after you have eaten, after you have gone to bed and you have washed yourself. Once you've begun to think like, hey, I'm not poor, that is when you will have salvation. That is when you will start your journey of becoming rich. So I'd like to thank you for listening. My name is Femi Shuewu from Africa Web TV. We are on a mission to give you another perspective. We are on a mission to start a discussion. Like I said earlier, I'm just saying things based on the experience I've had in life. And it is time to talk to other people, talk to other Africans, and see that we should not underrate ourselves, because people from somewhere have told us you can only be considered rich if you have things that you don't need. People have 12, 20 shoes. How many shoes can you wear in a day, in a week? Those extra money you are spending on these shoes, you could use it to set up something, employ one of those 1 million university graduates from Nigeria. We'll see you again. Thank you for listening. Bye.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king.